Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the little late start. I was having some issues with my laptop. Let me get this shared out really quick. So 1 second, everybody. Okay, so let me go ahead and get the Discord closed. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I was having some technical issues. My laptop was like stuck in this like weird restarting phase. So, okay, we have some selling going on this morning. And what we need to make sure of is that it does not invalidate this previous cup. Okay. That is the most important thing right now. And go ahead and kind of pick some of these drawings up really quick. Because we do have our cup, we do have potentially our handle. Okay. Is this potentially trying to make another handle here? Quite possibly, okay. Um, we just have to double check everything. Semiconductors have been pushing down. However, they have not been working to invalidate this previous cup yet. I mean, we have long, long, long way to go. We have literally $10 of downside to go before they invalidate that cup. But we do have this inverse cup closed here. Okay. So that's a little sketchy. That means that potentially they are trying to form a handle to continue downward. So we'll keep tabs on that. Excuse me. QQQ. It's kind of same thing as SPY here. Previous cup structure still holding extremely well. Not too concerned about that at this point, but it is something, obviously we're going to be aware of going over today's trading session. Okay. Now, something else we all have to be aware of is this head and shoulder liquidity. Now, technically this could have already taken, or it can be waiting to really give us kind of the death punch today. So we're going to be watching for that. However, on our 5-minute time frame here, we are seeing that entry is somewhat opening. Okay, so we are going to be looking for a call entry today. Um, I'm not seeing a lot of put entry just yet. It's kind of like go over semiconductors. Semiconductors kind of the same boat. It's pushed downward. Um, it's very likely going to be giving us that lower Bollinger call entry rather than pulling up and giving us the put entry. At least that's not what I'm seeing so far. Same with SPY here. SPY, excuse me, giving us more so of that call entry on the day. Now, a few things we will be watching, which I'm not really expecting a huge uptick in volatility because right now UVIX and UVIXY are actually pulled downward um, in the pre-market. So when the VVIX opens, I'm not really expecting a huge uptick. And potentially we're starting to get to that range again where we're exiting that selling range. So that's something we're of course going to watch. Another thing we're going to watch here is the HIG. Can circle around to it. We will be watching the HIG. Yesterday it did play out that head and shoulders a little bit. However, now, well, this actually more than just yesterday. This is couple days worth of price action. But now we are building this cup here. Okay. So from that cup, we are looking for a handle the upside. So we are looking for that on HIG. Um, actually do have 80 calls on this that should be doing well today. So we'll see what happens with HIG. If they're going to start buying up the HIG. But so far, this morning's selling doesn't look as scary as it potentially could be. We will go over just a couple different individual symbols. And good morning, everybody. Sorry, I'm having to go through everything kind of late. Little bit of a late start. Was having some issues with my computer. Um, hold on. So I'll look at Microsoft here. Okay, so Microsoft here, we have a very, very well-defined cup formed here. So any downside in Microsoft very likely is to build upward. Very likely trying to take that full gap all the way to the 408.63. So Microsoft is looking like it's going to be on our side today. Micron doing the exact same thing. We have an inverse head and shoulders building here. So if Micron's going to be working with us today, then it is looking like it wants to build the liquidity back up to that 817 range. What else? Let me look for. It's really sinking today, Qualcomm. So Qualcomm definitely does have a head and shoulders. So we'll see if it continues pushing downward against us or not. Shouldn't be massive for the market though. Yeah, I want to check the heat map really quick. Yeah, we're gonna check AMD and everything. AMD. So AMD, we still got a little bit of the same thing here, but do have to be super cautious that there is this very, very, very large potential of this inverse cup and handle forming here. Okay. Which, if that does form, what is that starting to form on top of that? A large head and shoulders. Okay. So we will be looking for AMD to have a bounce. That will be a big signal for today's AMD. Actually, I think that's probably one of the main ones we need to really worry about today. It's Palantir, AppLovin, IBM. Okay, so really not too much. Let me go ahead and post on the on my X account that I'm actually streaming. Hold on. Okay, so today what we need to really, I guess, determine is this going to be a major selling session and basically a massive, pull down for the day, or are we going to be seeing a little bit of bounces happening throughout the market at some of these key liquidity ranges? Sorry if I sound very, very tired. Now, I did check today's data. Today's data wasn't really too bad or anything, so Nothing should really be pushing or pulling against the market too much. Now, it is 2 minutes until open. We are going to be having a call entry here. It looks like very likely, but we do need to watch out that this can swing down and grab that for 43 or the 743.10. We're only 60 cents away from that. So that is one thing we will be looking for, but I do want to see kind of where the VIX is at open, where the Hig is, and kind of identify everything from there. Semiconductors still pulling down quite a bit today, so now for these calls, I'm going to be targeting the 745 when we take them, which is going to be look like pretty much on open, so try to get those prepared. Okay, so we are going to watch really quick to see if we pull down to that gap, because if we do, that'd be really awesome actually. I'm starting to tack on just a couple calls. Now, still kind of expecting a push down here. Um, but let's go ahead and take a look at our VVIX. This should be loading very soon here. Then we'll get that value. Actually, I think it is loading. So it's at the 98.36. If that's correct, and I want to check our Hig. Major gap down in the VVIX. Okay, that's very good for us. Okay, so massive gap down. Where is the Hig? Come on. Okay, the Hig is seeing some buying today too. Okay, so equities are looking fine right now. Now, I want to look at semiconductors as we have pushed down quite a bit. Now, because we've pushed so far down in semiconductors, I'm actually going to take a few of these 8 puts for Soxus. Again, this is basically taking calls within semiconductors. So taking some of those Soxus puts. More, so hold on. Now, again, these are the 8 puts for this Friday. So I'll type out kind of everything I just bought in chat. Did I say 745 or 746? Hold on, what do I got? I have. I not even have my pulse going? Oh my gosh, I did a limit buy. No, I missed my call entry. Okay, so I'm gonna be buying into this anyway. That's stupid. That's why I really don't like doing limit orders, but my brokerage automatically defaulted to it, so I missed the call entry slightly. Um, these are the 475 calls. Unfortunate. Okay, so 475 calls. Let me go ahead and add those in the chat. And then the 8 says, good morning, everybody. Okay, so what we're looking for here is we're starting to look for some form of bullish structure, okay, at the bottom of some of these, um, some of these selling ranges. QQQ is giving a little bit of that. That's good. See what SPY is doing. SPY is starting to pull up, so what we're going to look for, because this inverse cup actually didn't form, what we are going to look for from this range is, well, I guess I already have it highlighted. It's this handle, okay? We're looking for this handle to build, and so far this is giving us this handle. Now, in terms of the scalp, if you're just doing the 0 DTE here, um, technically our exit is at that 744.65. So if you were looking for a very, very quick and easy win, there it is. But I'm looking for a little bit higher today. So I am going to be a little risky with my positions here. Now, VVIX pulled down all the way to the 97.22. It is currently at 97.79, so it did have quite a bit of an uptick. And I do just want to make sure that HIG is working in our favor. So yes, HIG is still buying upward. Let's check Bitcoin. Not that I really care, but I want to see Bitcoin seeing bullish structure. We see very bullish structure here. We have this cup forming here. We have this cup forming there. Inverse cup did not form, so this is very likely going to form a small handle to the downside before heading upward. Okay, so this is all playing very well into showing that very, very likely today we are going to be trying to push some of this weight that did sell off. So out of QQQ, we're seeing this cup form. Top of this cup is at the 717.04. At the top of that cup, we expect bearish structure. Okay, so very likely it's going to give us all the way up, a push all the way into this upper Bollinger here, start creating some bearish structure to the downside, and then look for continuation the upside. Semiconductors here, ever since our buy at the very bottom, which I'm super proud of, um, we are starting to pull back upward. Now, kind of same thing we're looking for on everything else. We're looking for this cup to invalidate the previous bearish structure here. Okay. On semiconductors, we do need to pull up all the way basically to that 528.66. So I am going to mark that. That that is just very crucial range we do need to pull back up to. For SPY here, same thing. We want to see this cup filled rather than a rejection, because if we see a rejection, this is giving us a little bit of a head and shoulders. So we're not looking for that. Okay, we're looking for our calls to basically be pushing all new highs today. Now, I want to look at the daily levels really quick. So we talked about this last night, but the upper Bollinger is currently at the 748.40. Okay, so that means that if we're going to be seeing upside today, we are going to be closing. I'm going to put a horizontal line on it. Oh, I didn't mean that. I meant array, horizontal array. And let's put this to the 8, 90. Okay, so if we're going to be getting the upside that we're expecting today, then it is way up there. So we have a lot of room to go. Okay, we have still to contend with this handle, build liquidity to head upwards. So I'm not expecting just some straight up moonshot there. So we will just watch everything and be very aware of it. Sorry, I sound super tired. I did not sleep well last night, but I am on my game and I am ready. So now let's take a look at VVIX here. VVIX pulled upward to the basically 98 range. Looks like it pulled up to the 98.08, pulling back down to the 97.69. So this is good. This is getting us out of this, very, very dangerous selling area that we were basically have been in. This is telling us that dealers are wanting to give up on that aspect of wanting to sell. Um, which that's good for us. HIG still buying upward, still looking very good. Liquid has that cup forming a little bit of a handle. QQQ did reach the top of that cup. So again, I know this cup's a little wonky, sorry. I just don't want to have to redraw it. We are looking for bearish structure at the top of that. And SPY has almost fully completed this cup. Um, so that's also very, very good in our favor. Now, at the top of this cup, I am going to be exiting the 0DT calls because there's going to be an additional entry on them later today. And I'm still kind of bummed that my limit order kicked me out early. So, or didn't let me get my price that I was expecting. So this should pull up to this upper Bollinger here on the 5-minute time frame. But I'm just going to be exiting pretty much right. Not yet. Let's see this cup really, really pushed into. So I'm really looking for like that 745, 50-ish range. Couple more cents. Let's go. Okay, and we sell. Okay, perfect. Small scalp there, nothing too big. Um, would have been a lot bigger if my brokerage actually worked with what I was looking for. Okay, so cool. Um, from this point, from this top of this cup, again, we are looking for bearish structure. The entire rest of the day, okay, the entire rest of the day is going to be about catching the bottom of this handle. Okay. Um, literally that should be pretty much the only thing everybody's looking for is where the bottom of this handle is located. Because we see the cups pushing QQQ, SPY, and let's just double check our semiconductors. We want to make sure. Okay, and fantastic. Semiconductors are breaking us out of this bearish range, wanting to start filling this cup to the upside, which makes this a very, very pretty gnarly double bottom here. Okay. So I'm glad we got our entry on this. This is looking absolutely fantastic. It's entirely invalidated the previous bearish structure. Okay. So that's very good. Um, that's exactly what we're looking for. Now, semiconductors are giving us a bit of the short position here. Very likely SPY, QQQ, everybody will give us a little bit of a short position. On QQQ here, there's actually about a $2 short downside, so I actually think that I want to take that. We will be targeting the 715 puts. So with us pushing into the upper Bollinger here, I'm going to go ahead and take one of these. Now we are going to push slightly more, very likely here. Um, but I want to go turn off my heater really quick and go get a drink of coffee or something before I turn into just a Looney Tune. Um, but aside from that, everything's looking great. We're expecting the handles downward, and overall, our days are looking like it's wanting to push towards the upper Bollinger slash all-time highs. So it looks very, very good for us. Okay. So again, our level that we are looking for is roughly about $3 above us. Now, our downside on the day, which I do want to really kind of map out, is going to be at that 742. Let's mark that because if we're going to be having our downside, then that's going to be where the top of the upper Bollinger is, or the 5 mile. And if we have our downside, it's going to be completely invalidating the bullish structure of yesterday. Okay. I'm not expecting to have this heavy of a downside today, but we are taking short positions at the top of this cup because there's room to absorb on this downside. So we've had one very good trade today. We are setting up the second trade. Um, I am already in my position on QQQ. Now for QQQ, let's go ahead and go back to QQQ here. Obviously pushing up quite a bit, but this still makes our target the exact same. We are still targeting this 5 mile range. So I'm actually tacking on a couple more puts here. Okay. And for QQQ, these are the 715s. Okay. So nothing super fancy, but we're just looking for this move down to the 20 mile. From that 20 mile exit, we will be exiting the puts entirely. And from that exit, we will be looking for the upside. Okay. So I will redraw this handle, but it's kind of what we're looking for. Now, out of this smaller cup, we do have a much larger cup forming, which again, this is why I feel very, very confident taking these short positions here. We have multiple large cups formed here. Okay, so this is still our put entry, regardless. Okay. Um, I didn't want to draw this handle because we are targeting all the way back down to the 20 mile to push into basically all-time highs. So that's what we're looking for. Now I want to look at our VVIX here. VVIX is at the 98.11, so ticking upwards slightly. It was all the way at the 98.31, but we should be seeing this tick upward a little bit if we're going to be, excuse me, getting the handles on these cups that we're expecting. Let me read chat really quick. Good morning, everybody. Um, Sorry, I haven't been able to really check chat everything. If you can't day trade today, I would just hold our calls. For example, if you have some of the calls expiring tomorrow, or some of those success puts, then I'd be holding them for tomorrow because the mechanics of the upper Bollinger say that if we're going to be seeing our upper Bollinger upside, which the structure is heavily in favor for, it's telling us that day one we will be closing at or above that level. Okay, so that means that we basically should have a close today at the 749 or above. And if we're going to be having that close above the 749, securing that day one upper Bollinger move, then day two, we look for a higher high, which, well, what's higher than 749? Well, we start targeting that 751, 752. So plenty of upside today. We just will be very patient for it. And yeah, I just can't talk. Feel like a zombie right now. Now, this is a very, very quality range to tack on a few success calls. So that's basically semiconductor shorts. Um, what's the price of socks right now? So you could do the $9 calls very, very safely. So that's looking good. Our handle's starting to pull downward. We are starting to look for a little bit of bearish structure at the top of these cups. So we're just being very patient, holding on to our puts. And again, these are kind of bullish puts. I know that sounds stupid, but these puts are just purely for bullish liquidity to the downside. Grab whatever the liquidity we can before continuing upward. Okay. So any puts we have, we do have to understand that the upside today is very, very large. The market almost 100% wants it. I can't say that because I don't know if I can get sued or not, but the market definitely wants this upside. It looks very, very convincing. Um, so again, these puts, they're going to be a very short ride down. We're just taking the 20 mile. From that 20 mile, we will focus on trying to reposition into some calls to the upside because again, overall, the structure today is very bullish. Okay, we want to be on the bullish side of things overall. Sorry, I'm trying to look for QQQ here. Still pushing a little bit, but I'm not going to be adding additional puts here. Our put and entry was very fine, so I just want to mark that for the exacts. Okay, we entered the puts right in that range. Okay, from that put entry, again, we're looking to the 20 mile. 20 mile is currently at the 716.07. So these 715 puts will pay their weight very greatly once we, head downward. The success calls are just going to be for Friday. So these are just basically insurance to uh, any upside downside. Okay. Trading at 16, very, very awesome. Um, if you stick around in the stream, I'd really like to give you a whole lot of words of advice because while I highly, highly, highly suggest you continue on this journey. There is a lot of things that could come and bite you. Okay, so I would really like to sit down with you just for like 5 or 10 minutes once we get some of these trades out. Um, because yeah, you're entering into a really, really big world here. Okay, but it's a great thing that you are. Again, I think that trading is kind of the future for younger generations, as it's starting to become a lot harder to work now, with just how the job economy is and everything. Um, and very likely the future is really trying to transfer a lot of jobs to AI. So, oh, coffee, thank you, thank you. My wife brought me coffee. She's the best. Turn that on. Yeah, just that top switch. No, no, the top switch all the way to the left. There you go. Thank you. I know. Sorry, my wife had to go to work and everything. I just had to say goodbye. Okay. Same thing here. We're still just waiting for our short positions to give us the weight they need. We are starting to see a little bit of bearish structure at the top here, which that's exactly what we're looking for. Let's just see if we will get our entire downside that we are wanting to get. AMD is green now, by the way. Same with Micron. They were extremely red this morning. Which Anna, if you're in the chat, this is why I keep telling you don't sell Micron yet. There will be a time to sell it, but it's not yet. Go ahead, take a look at SPY. SPY, we're starting to see some of this bearish structure building at the top here. So same thing. Even though I didn't take the SPY puts, I took the QQQ. Did I type SPY puts in the chat? I typed, I meant QQQ. Okay, so um, I took the QQQ positions, not the SPY, even though the SPY puts are still very valid and looking like they want to do very well. But QQQ, our exit again is going to be at this 716.08. And from there, we will be looking for bullish structure. Okay, because again, we're trying to look for upside for today. Um, Again, this is pretty much the entire session is catching that handle properly and properly heading to the upside. Okay. So these puts should do very well here. I'm not going to be greedy and try to hold further puts expecting to push downward to the downside because again, we have so much bullish structure on the day today that I really can't target this downside in terms of being bearish. Our VVIX has been heavily pulling down. It's at 97.53. And let's check our HIG. It should be pulling down very slightly. Barely. Barely pulling down here. So a lot of signals telling us that truly dealers do want the upside here. So we're going to pick up this liquidity and target that upside. So we're working on the second trade of today. The first trade we took calls, rode those to the top of the cup, and those went very, very well. Now we're just waiting for our short positions to give us the exit. So now's a good time for any questions because we're all just kind of waiting at this point. When to exit the SPY puts? Your exit on the SPY puts will be at the 744.75. I would be looking a little deeper than that just because of QQQ, um, semiconductors, everything else. So I would be looking a little bit further downward, especially when you do have quite a bit of liquidity built right there. So very likely in that range, which would be slightly underneath the 20 mil. So I would say try to target the bottom side of that 744, if you can. So far we're not really seeing those bullish structures yet. And even on QQQ here, or on semiconductors, we do have very bearish structure at the top of this cup. We have a head and shoulders. So allow this to push us downward and allow that to be some of that SPY exit. Okay. So keep a strong watch on socks as well, because this will be playing very much so hand in hand with our SPY exits, um, and very much so with QQQ as well. Again, QQQ still has a whole $1.60 downside. I fully intend to capitalize on that. Um, SPY it looks a little tighter, but I do think that you can catch the bottom side of that 744. So we will be looking for that. BVIX has still been pulling down like crazy today. It's at 70, or it's at 97. Hold on, I have to go back to it. 97.10 currently. So make sure we use these put exits very, very properly when they hit. QQQ, we're watching our exit very closely. In fact, I'm just going to keep my hand on sell button at this point because I'm not expecting this 20 mile hit to last very long at all. Um, this is the type of day where we might be sitting at this 20 mile range for maybe 10, 15 seconds. Okay. So really, really, really make sure you have your hand on those sell buttons. Don't be putting limit orders. Okay. Make sure that these are set for market sales. Okay. 1 minute time frame showing us a little bit of reprieve here, but we still have that downside to go. Semiconductors still need to push down roughly a whole nother $1.30. Let's check. SPY giving us that 5 mile. Again, I'm really expecting a little bit further downward on SPY, so exit at your own risk there. QQQ is giving us our exit, so I went ahead, closed my puts. Okay, and at this point, we are just going to be looking for bearish, or excuse me, bullish structure to the upside. So in terms of that, we don't exactly have a call entry just yet. Okay, we want to make sure we see some bullish structure building in here. However, our VVIX has been pulling down massively on the day. Um, I'm really trying to get to semiconductors. Semiconductors, I really do want to see it hit this 527.38. Um, yeah, I really do want to see that level hit before we start really engaging into calls. But everybody should have exited their puts by now. Okay, so two very nice trades for the day so far. And now at this point, we're simply just looking for upside. Okay, we're looking for bullish structure within these cup handles to give us the upside. Okay. Um, I do really want to see semiconductors pushing to the 20 mile here. May not happen, because as you can see, we're already starting to validate this head and shoulders a bit. So we may not get that full downside. So let me look at SPY here. Hold on. SPY, we are starting to see this inverse head and shoulders here. But this can also be an inverse cup. So we do need to be very cautious of this. We do want to see um, some invalidation of this previous cup. Now, I'm being very patient on taking calls here. Okay, I do want to see, again, bullish structure build. I don't want to just vibe trade into calls to the upside, but we might have to. Um, Again, the upside today is just absolutely huge. So let's see if we get a continued rejection downward within semiconductors. If we don't, and then let me really just quantify this for a second. Our downside here should pull down to the 727. If it doesn't, then it's not going to invalidate um, the bullish structure that's starting to build here, which is a cup and handle. Okay, so if we don't get this downside, um, basically all the way down to the 727 range, then this is telling us that potentially we could be getting a bounce here. Okay, so we do need to watch this super, 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 super closely. Okay. Now for the SPY, with this inverse head and shoulders starting to build here, I do want to start targeting some of this upside. Now, today we do have a very, very large upside. So we are going to take a little bit of out of the money calls here. We're going to be targeting the 748. So for me, I'm going to take some of these 747 calls. And I'm just putting a limit order at 75 per. Make sure I get those. Got them at 0.73 per. So I'm going to type those in chat. 7 calls, 0 DTE. The 746s are absolutely fine too. I'm just wanting to really grab some of that major push on the upside today, which I think we have an absurd upside today. Now, VVIX still pulling downward. This is exactly what we want to see. Okay, exactly what we want to see today. And our HIG, we do want to see pulling upward. This was pulling down very slightly due to building some of those handles without or throughout the market. Um, but again, we do want to start seeing our HIG pushing upward again. Semiconductors have not closed that gap to the downside yet, which means that if we're going to be truly bouncing here, then um, this is a very small up and handle, okay, which is telling us that it wants to invalidate that larger head and shoulders, okay? So we are going to be looking for that. Inverse head and shoulders here on SPY really starting to take shape. With that, we could start targeting this cup towards the 745.89, okay? From the top of that cup, just like earlier, we're expecting a little bit of bearish structure, pull down, continue to head upward. Okay, and that's going to continue being the pattern until we get our full breakout today. So far, two very good trades. Potentially, we're working on the third. Um, I'm in my calls currently, and I just want to take a look at semiconductors while this is all going on. Yeah, currently in my calls, just waiting to target the upside on the day. On semis, again, we do want to be seeing a bounce here rather than a continued push down. A continued push down can close an inverse cup here. So again, we do want to be very, very, very cautious of that. Bottom of that inverse cup is at the 740, or excuse me, the 527.46. Sorry, I have that dyslexia with numbers. I always forget the name of it. Um, but you'll hear me just saying all these random numbers that aren't there. That's just because that's unfortunately how my brain originally reads them. Um, but I do know to make the correction, so don't think that I'm just throwing out random numbers willy-nilly. I do usually catch the mistake. So again, with semiconductors, we're looking to see if we're going to push down all the way to this 527.46, very close to that range. If that does hit, it's going to be telling us this inverse cup is closing. Okay, that level did hit, so inverse cup did close. Now, the duality side of nature of things is that from the bottom of this cup, we are expecting bullish structure because we are expecting a handle downward. So we're just going to make sure that this doesn't turn into some massive rejections onto SPY and everything. but very likely on stocks, this is going to turn into kind of that larger inverse head and shoulders type liquidity. Not now. Now our VVIX is at 97.23. So pulling upward a little bit from the 96.92. Um, but even as I just said that, it did tick downward very, very slightly. So again, I'm really expecting a pretty big bounce here out of semiconductors, out of QQQ, out of SPY, to form a lot of this upside. 5 minute time frame here. I'm going to delete some of these structures because this is looking like a mess. And I don't like messes. We're going to change that circle out for a purple square. That is a little less intrusive, but we did have that entry very, very well timed. And we took calls at this entry. Okay, so I also want to just make sure I'm labeling that. So we're looking for upside bounces throughout the entirety of the market right now. Okay. Semiconductors especially, this is the one that we really want to see a major bounce out of. We don't want to be seeing our semiconductors pushing against us while we're expecting upside within the rest of the market. Okay. Microsoft, we have nothing to worry about. That is a cup trying to form a handle. HIG, still seeing a little bit of selling. I want to see some buying within HIG. Okay, that's going to be very, very important for us moving to the upside today. Bitcoin, we were expecting this downside handle. From this downside on the 5 minute time frame, we are starting to expect some upside. Not that I really care about Bitcoin, but this will kind of move in tandem with the rest of the equities. On NVIDIA, we do have this very, very, very well-defined cup. And from that, building the handle to the upside. So a lot of different symbols telling us that we really should be expecting upside here. And as long as we don't see anything start invalidating, then we're going to hold those calls. UVIX at the 97.18. Again, semiconductors, we're really looking for bullish structure to occur at the bottom here. So we are looking for a major bounce. Same with QQQ, everything else. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining. I know not everybody can stay for the full stream. I do have the VODs as well if you ever want to just listen to me ramble and watch active trading days that did happen. Um, Especially the hard days. Those are always worth looking over, and even myself, I look over my own VODs when we've had an extremely hard day because it's always nice to see um what we did right, what we did wrong, things like that. So, thank you for joining me. No, I'm not ending the stream right now or anything, don't worry. But I know not everybody can stick around the entire stream. So we are looking for a continuation of bullish structure. We're seeing our VVIX continuing to pull downward, even if it's just a few cents. That's super, super important for the big dogs with a lot of money, because they're pretty much the only ones buying into the VVIX. We're starting to see this upward cup starting to fill out. If we can fill the level out all the way to the 745.89, then that's going to tell us that the previous bearish structure has been invalidated. Okay, it's extremely likely that's going to happen. Semiconductors starting to push a bit. I do expect a little bit of a downside to create this right shoulder or fully heading upward, but we're already seeing the upside out of QQQ. We're already starting to see the upside out of SPY. So a lot of this upside starting to look very nice. I look at IWM sometimes, um, but for me, it's not a market leader. So IDM's price action, or IWM, excuse me, let me say it right. IWM's price action's never going to, um, I shouldn't say never. There are times where small cap, mid caps, do very, very well, but usually IWM is the smaller companies. Smaller companies moving up or down usually don't matter a whole lot to what we're doing. We're dealing with literally the trillions of dollars where IWM unfortunately is just dealing with the billions. Um, I know they do have, trillions of dollars between everything, but you understand what I'm saying. This is the difference between dealing with the real big boy money versus, some of those smaller companies. So I will look to them more as an indicator of overall what's going on, but not so much as, oh, the IWM's up, that means that we need to be bearish on the SPY, you know, something like that. I don't use that as that type of signal. Still seeing our upside out of SPY here, so this is looking very, very nice. A lot of viewers this morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. It's always nice to see you here. Hopefully, you're getting some good trades in with me. So far, we've had technically three very, very successful trades so far. The third one we're still working on, but technically, I'm already in the green on it quite a bit. So, um, it is a successful trade. We're just waiting for the rest of the structure to really just play out and for us to finally get our upper Bollinger push, which they have rejected, I believe, 5 times on us over the last 2 weeks, which has not been easy. It's a very, very tough range between the 5 mile and the upper Bollinger. We're starting to see this cup invalidating all of the previous bearish structure we had on the day. So this cup and handle should be breaking us out towards the all-time highs. Again, with this smaller handle, this is a nested cup. With this being a nested cup, that means that we can expect a small handle on that prior to fully, um, getting that upside that we're anticipating here. Yeah, glad to have you back into trading. I mean, thing with trading is it's so difficult, and I understand what it's like for people to absolutely just hose their accounts because again, trading's very difficult, you know. Um, but with my trades, I try to be very, 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 very systematic, mechanical, however you want to describe it. I have very specific entries, very specific exits, and this is really what I'm looking to teach everybody. Not so much about, oh wow, I'm winning a lot of money. Yeah, that's great, but that's not what the goal of these streams are. The goal of the streams are that I hopefully will be teaching you some skills of how to actually identify the structure within the market, how to actually identify what the dealers are doing, and how to profit from it. Um, so yeah, Hig, I want to see buying. Okay. We really want to see this pushing back up to the 80 plus today. Um, our Hig not buying is very, very concerning, especially when we are having quite a bit of an update on TLT. TLT and Hig do try to keep their yields fairly in check. Let's see the SPY. SPY completely just obliterated all of the previous bearish structure. So this is great. This is telling us exactly what we want, that we should be expecting quite a bit of upside today. Now again, from this 5-minute time frame, this does actually technically give us short position back down to the 20 mile. 20 mile will be pulling upward, so we very likely wouldn't hit back down towards that lower 744 range, or excuse me, yeah, 744 range. Very likely it would pull up to probably around that 745. So there's not a whole lot of room in terms of this downside for the handle. So I don't really like taking these short positions here, even though they are available. Um, I'm not going to because of the bullish structure. This could be turning into a very, very large breakout on the day. So overall, I want to be positioned to the upside, um, especially when we see semiconductors here still needing to form this smaller cup. I'm going to delete some of this structure, so we do not need it clouding everything on the day. But with semiconductors, we're expecting this bullish structure to occur, okay, which is telling us we have a whole nother $2 of upside before we start to see the smaller handle start to build. Okay, so we have a lot of upside in semiconductors still. And QQQ, we have a little bit of upside left. We still have about, well, from the current range, about $1. But from where we were at the 719, we do need to go to the 719, basically 719.70. So we are going to be looking for that range to be hit. Very likely it's going to hit any second now. Um, Market's looking very, very positive today. BVIX is at the 97.24. Again, this did pull up all the way to the 98.31. So this is showing that dealers are trying to taper out their insurance on the day, which for me as a bull, that's telling us we're expecting upside. So, um, again, there's a lot of upside on the day with SPY invalidating a lot of its previous bearish structure. That's telling us that the upside is super, super, super large. So we're waiting for some of this to kick in into QQQ on semiconductors. Um, but this is looking awesome today. There will be another entry on the SPY calls. Um, again, once we get the top of this cup on QQQ and on semiconductors, you'll look for the short position. I'm personally not going to short there. Again, I'm looking for the upside, but there will be a slight downside from the top of this. Okay. Um, Bullish or not, we're looking for that. And because of that, that means that there will be another call entry. So I will be trying to help you get into that. Again, I'm not shorting this cup top. I am just looking for purely upside push from this point. What would the SPAC's target be today? So a good way to do that and following what we're looking for on the SPY. Okay. The upper Bollinger on SPACs is at $7,508. Okay. So that means that if we're going to be getting this upper Bollinger move on the SPACs, on the SPY, on QQQ, on basically everything that we're looking for, we're going to be closing. Just make sure the dimensions are right. Want this bottom to definitely show actual true Bollinger there. So we should be closing above that 7,510 range. Okay. Um, that means the upside in SPACs today is absolutely absurd. Hit the cup top, expecting handles. Semiconductors, I'm not really expecting a handle here. I'm more so just expecting a very slight pull down to fully build this cup outward. Same with QQQ. QQQ, we really do want to see the top of this cup hit. Should literally do this any second now. That should be the dealer target. I mean, there's no reason they don't push that, so um, looking for that. And I want to look at the HIG again. So HIG is still pulling downward slightly. This is probably the most concerning signal we have on the day. Um, however, okay, and this is a very, very big however, the treasury yields have been moving up. Yes, they're down a little bit today, but overall the treasury yields have been moving up, and that is going to weigh against the HIG a little bit. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that's why we're seeing a little bit of that divergence where we're expecting the market to continue pushing upward and the HIG is still pulling downward slightly. Um, Usually that's not what I look for though. I truly do want to be seeing the HIG buying upward today. So that is a major signal we need to really see start kicking in. The VVIX has pulled up to the 97.81, which is currently at the mid band or the 20 mile. From this 20 mile, I am expecting a rejection on the VVIX here. If the VVIX does not reject, then that can sort of allude to further selling within equities. But again, we have so much bullish structure built on the day. I don't see this turning into a selling session. Just something we have to be very cautious of. This looks like a smaller cup right here as well, forming a handle. So semiconductors are looking very good. Still looking for this cup to finish at the top here. So I'm just going to delete some of this other structure until we actually see that cup fill. But we are looking for the cup to fill all the way to the 533. And let's check QQQ and everything. QQQ looks fine. Again, it was a little concerning seeing this cup not take to the top, basically to the penny. Um, because potentially that could turn into a double top. This can turn into a larger inverse cup and handle just because we were off the top range by 30 cents. So it's not what I'm looking for. Not really what I'm seeing out of the market either. But again, we need to see HIG buying. Um, this is pretty much our biggest signal right now is that the HIG needs to be buying to the upside. Okay. We don't see HIG start buying, we will not see the rest of equities start buying. And our VVIX, it's at this 97.61 range. Not super concerned about it right now. But again, if we do see it continuing to push upward against us, then that will heavily change the story. But SPY here, we did have this nested cups handle, or the nested cup here, complete. So truly out of the day, we are looking for bearish structure or bullish structure to form at the bottom of wherever this handle is going to be. Um, Ideally, they're going to chop the market slightly, pull this 20 mile upward, then build a position at that 20 mile. Semiconductors here, we're just watching very closely to make sure we don't have some absurd rejection to the downside. And let me go ahead and look at chat. Any concerns about they chop us up today with OPEX tomorrow? Um, so my main concern about OPEX tomorrow isn't so much that they're going to chop us up today, but rather hold a higher high very early in the day tomorrow and then kind of just nuke the market. Because as a dealer, I think that's probably what I would do. Seeing how we've been pushing into the upper Bollinger and everything. If we grab that level today anyway, then from the dealer standpoint, I would heavily be interested in burning the calls. Which would mean that I would want to sell calls. Okay. As a dealer, that would mean I would want to sell very high IV calls. And the way to do that is you push the market upward. That's how you get your IV very high. And then once you sell those high IV calls, you get everybody holding the bags, then you dump it. Um, so that's kind of the expectation I'm having over the next 2 days is for us to get this upper Bollinger day one today, then day two tomorrow, do that higher high, and then very likely a fairly large pull down on the day. But with the upper Bollinger day two, um, we will be taking dated short positions into that, so that's completely fine. Okay, I'm gonna take just a second to drink some coffee because I don't want to fall asleep on everyone. Um, Mr. Nitro, I still want to talk to you about something in a few minutes. Um, if you do have a little bit of time. Again, as you did state, you're a very young trader, and this can be one of the best things for you, or this can be, something that can create a lot of contention in your life moving forward. Okay. I've seen trading absolutely destroy people, but if you learn the proper way, if you learn the proper way how to handle your emotions, if you learn the proper way of how to enter and exit symbols, then that's not going to be the case. But you really have to focus on the zero FOMO, zero emotion aspect. Um, really have to focus on pure technicals, following exactly what the market is giving you for the day or not. But anyway, I'm gonna be right back just a couple minutes. We're gonna watch over semiconductors. I just want to look at the VVIX really quick though. VVIX did pull all the way up to the 97.82. It has legged downward quite a bit to the 97.33. So for us, that's a very good signal. That's, kind of exactly what we're looking for is the VVIX to pull downward and be defeated on the day. And we are also looking for our HIG to start buying to the upside. Now, there was just a massive share buy within HIG, 308,000 shares for the dot. So if anyone wants to do the math on that, that's, a large chunk of money. Okay. So we're gonna watch semiconductors for a second. I'm gonna drink some coffee, and if anybody has any questions about anything, it's a super, super good time to post them in chat and ask. Anyway, I'll be mute for just a couple minutes. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so on semiconductors here, we're getting our bounce that we're looking for. Okay, on the 1 minute time frame, this is in the it's that inverse head and shoulders we've been talking about, well, except it didn't really form in the exact way that we expected. The liquidity is all still there though, so what we're expecting from that is we're expecting this range to close. Okay, we're seeing a lot of reach to create the liquidity to push upward into that range. So that's what we should be fully anticipating here. SPY doing the exact same thing, getting ready to destroy that top of the cup, build an additional nested. This is a nested cup of a nested cup, okay? So from this nested cup, we're expecting a nested handle to continue pulling us upward. And this kind of goes back to last night's class, which I know not everybody got to join. Um, but why we target cups specifically. There's a lot of room within a single, if you only knew how to target a bullish cup, there's so many different trades you can do with just that alone. Um, Being able to target these upside cups, these downward inverse cups are one of the most crucial skills you can learn to truly start identifying market structure aside from, learning the moving averages and everything, but identifying cups. It's literally why I have my firm called Cups and Handles. It's where the money is at. Okay, I've made so much off of just being able to identify cups. Um, you know, Going above and beyond all the other market mechanics that we know. Just identifying cups will make you money. Let's check the HIG, because I know we saw that last share buy of 108 or 308,000 shares. Pig's starting to buy up a little bit, so that's good. That's exactly what we want to see. And we need to be seeing our VVIX pulling downward, which we are. It is continuing to pull downward to new lows of the day, so it's at 96.87. We will get another call entry. Again, with this top of the cup formed here, even though it's a very small cup, you should be looking for at least even on the 1 minute time frame, which I hate to use the 1 minute time frame for taking positions. I think it's absolute folly, but this is one of those opportunities where very likely within the 1 minute time frame, you're going to get this upper Bollinger to the 20 mile push. That 20 mile push is basically right at the 746. Okay, so if you want to be very, very patient and wait for that, that will be the call opportunity to the upside. Okay, oops. Semiconductors starting to close this larger cup. And even with that said, what do we expect at the top of a cup? Bearish structure. Okay. This might be a nested cup from, that cup from yesterday. However, from the top of this cup, we're still looking for that push downward to create the handle for that upside. So, is there another entry on calls? Is there another entry going to open up today? Absolutely. I do think so. QQQ getting ready to create or finish that cup that we were looking for earlier. Again, from the top of this cup, we expect a bit of a handle downward. Now, this handle on QQQ, again, isn't going to be very, very large at all. Um, let's just check the 5 minute time frame. So as you can see, the 20 MA is pulling upward. Okay, and this is something that is going to continue trending upward as long as we continue buying upward within the day. But use the 20 MA for entries on calls today, because very likely we're not going to be pushing into the lower Bollinger. Um, so with that said, with the top of this cup being hit, this does give you a little bit of that range to catch that 20 mile once we pull down, form the handle, and start heading to the upside. Now, semiconductors have not fully closed this cup yet. Okay, so there's still a little room left. Okay, this cup we're fully expecting to close before almost anything. Okay, but QQQ did close its cup. Yeah, I did. So from QQQ, that's telling us that we can expect a little bit of a rejection here. And let's check the SPY. Same thing with SPY. We absolutely blew the top off that cup. So expect a little bit of downside to create this handle. Um, from that handle, we should be doing very well today. So, I mean, here's the thing about getting in calls now is that the upper Bollinger is basically telling us that we're going to close above the 749. Okay. So, is there room in calls? Of course, absolutely. Um, but we're still going to be seeing some chop throughout the day. And with that chop, that means that there is the potential to have a much better entry instead of just trying to FOMO in at the top here. Um, so really try to wait and be patient for that pull down for the 20 mile before entering. Big, we're continuing to see buying. Lots of share sell or lots of share buys coming in. So that's very, very good. That's exactly what we want to see on the HIG. And our VVIX. Still pushing down. Still at the 96.93. It was at the 96.82, but again, we are expecting candles on all of those cups. So we should see a very slight uptick within the VVIX to, kind of allude and show that, yes, we're going to be seeing a little bit of downside. So everyone should be having a very, very good day so far. We've set up three very nice trades. Um, Technically, all three of them have been successful. I just have not exited the third trade because I'm really looking for, um, multiple dollars of upside from where we're at. So that's the only difference about that third trade. But all of our entries so far have been super, super, super good. We are looking to get out of those socks as puts very, very likely. Largely today, we will be exiting some of them. Um, Not until we get much, much closer until that to the upper Bollinger on SPY and everything. Okay. This is not the time to be exiting those just yet. Because everything's telling us that we still have upside to push. And as long as we have upside to push, then those puts can absolutely head down below this $8 range, which will be a massive, massive, massive premium increase. So don't sell yourself short on that one. Potentially we could see success going from this 80-20 range all the way to like the 760. Okay. For your contracts, that's going to be absolutely huge. So don't cut those short. Okay. And again, I still have all sorts of puts on socks right now. I have 11 puts, 10 puts, 9 puts. I have a mountain of 8 puts getting ready to go. And I'm getting a desk today, finally. Finally found a really cheap one. That's made out of wood. That has everything that I need, so awesome. New desk for the office, which means that eventually I can finally get the camera, and then y'all can stare at my ugly mug while I trade. We'll start small, that's the thing, It's like you don't have to worry about ever comparing your portfolio to another person's because trading isn't about how large your portfolio is. It's about you're growing your wealth. So your portfolio is kind of a reflection of you. Okay? And the whole goal of that is to just continue to grow that over time. Um, that's why trading is not a short-term thing. Trading is a massive, massive thing in your life. And if you set your life up well, if you set um, your habits well, if you try to remove a lot of FOMO out of your life and things, then your trading is going to reflect that. Um, so really, I look at trading more of a reflection of how you are as a person. And I know that might sound really weird, but just kind of go with me on that journey, okay? Um, so when we're trying to when we're trying to become better traders, what we're trying to do is actually just become better people. We're trying to become more patient. We're trying to become less emotional about situations that yes, today is a very good day to add to those $5 calls on drip. But trading is all about breaking that psychological and really just being able to focus on the signals and focus on what is truly reality. Um, Learning how to trade is not about getting rich. It's about learning how to grow your life essentially. Grow that portfolio. Um, that's why, you know, when I used to trade or teach trading classes a few years ago before I got really sick, one of the main things I would say is that to even begin to start trading well, you need to be sleeping well, you need to be eating well, you need to be trying to exercise, you need to be having a good physical attributes to you, because that's going to help you succeed. And I saw the exact situation happen where my physical health went down the drain. I was dealing with a ton of fatigue and everything, and I couldn't even navigate my trades. Um, I lost over $100,000 that year. Uh, yes, I've recovered a majority of that. Thankfully, trading this last month has been a huge blessing. It's really nice to have my hand not broken and not be in the hospital and everything. So, I have been able to recover a large sum of that loss from last year, but your health will get you. Um, I know that's not really going into anything you're discussing, but it's an important aspect of trading to really be healthy, to have a healthy mind, have a healthy physical body, um, and you know, from that, once you got your physical side well, once you have your mental side well, then you could sit down and really start identifying trades and start identifying, you know, how to make money out of the market, um, and how to grow that portfolio and everything else. So we see the handle forming here. Now, with this handle, this is simply just forming this original cup. Okay, because remember, this cup did not close there. This did not close that cup there. So we're simply still just looking for this original cup to close on semiconductors, which is telling us that there will be a very nice entry for calls again today. Because again, from the top of this cup, we do expect a push downward. That push downward should give us a push basically towards that 20 mile range. From that 20 mile range should be a very, very quality entry into the upside. Yes, this is on semiconductors, but this is going to basically run in tandem with SPY and everything else. So, um, no, I'm not looking to short this, even though there is room, but my daughter does get up pretty much any minute. So I'm just fine with being in the long side of today and aiming for the upper Bollinger at this point, rather than trying to catch the short downward. Success, you can see we're really starting to push down, and every cent here matters a lot. Okay, every cent here is going to make a huge impact on our put positions. Okay, it's really hard in the trading world because I hate to say a statistic just out of my butt, but I'm going to. But honestly, like 99.99% of people I've ever read a stock trading book from, I've watched a channel, anything, they don't know what they're talking about. Um, I for some reason have not been able to gain knowledge from the overall internet. I have not been able to gain knowledge from a lot of what people call experienced traders because they don't really tell you a whole lot. They tell you to follow certain indicators and things like that, or they might set up some bot or something to feed you some crummy plays, but that's not trading. Okay, that's not reading the chart. That's not being an active trader. Um, I just truly haven't seen. anyone else kind of take up the mantle to do that. So that's partially why I do what I do is because I have not been able to see anybody replicate this style. I've not seen anybody doing what I do. And I'm not trying to say that from like an egotistical stance, but that's actually kind of like from a stance of I guess curious concern because it's the year 2026. There should be mountains of books written on trading structure. There should be mountains of books written on moving averages and how to actually read them and not just some of the guru garbage that I've seen. And there's been so much guru garbage out there that it's really just kind of forced me to become a teacher at what I see and do. Um, so yeah. Um, I try to teach exactly what I do in exact situations, and that's why I'm very happy that I'm able to stream finally. Being able to show everybody kind of in real time what to look for is very, very nice. Okay, it makes things a lot easier on my end. So now let's take a look at our VVIX because this was rising a little bit. So it did climb all the way to the 97.21. It's currently at the 96.97. So it did pull down slightly. Let's take a look at our HIG. And our HIG is buying up very nicely. We're starting to form this cup to the upside, which that's exactly what we want to see. Um, Looking super, super good. Okay, today is looking very nice for our upside push. And in fact, we're only $1.50 away from the upper Bollinger itself. So if we don't have another upper Bollinger rejection today, um, which we are going to kind of hedge around that because that has happened 5 times now in a row. So once we start getting to this upper Bollinger range, we will be tacking on some put positions just as a insurance. Okay. Um, we won't we shouldn't hit 750 today. I'm thinking a lot more towards like that 490 or excuse me, the 749.60-ish range, give or take. Um, can we hit the 750? Absolutely. The upper Bollinger is literally right at that 749. Um, that's telling you the market wants to close above that range. Well, 750 isn't too far above that. So, um, is it unreasonable to target that? Not at all. Um, is it actually potentially a very good swing position into tomorrow? Once you wait for this to cool down and buy the handle, yeah, I think that could be an absolutely super good swing position into to tomorrow. Um, get the handle pull down, and then they'll probably be around the 746 range. That gives you a whole $4 upside on, 1 DT positions into tomorrow's open. So, and with the upper Bollinger, we expect tomorrow to have a higher high. So kind of the calls moving into tomorrow is the ideal situation. Even though I really, really don't like suggesting dated SPY calls right now because market's very volatile and volatility means that you can see negative volatility which leads to major buying, or you can see positive volatility which leads to major selling. And all it takes is a single tweet, a single news bulletin to absolutely kill positions. So that's why I've been focusing a lot during this push on like the success puts, because if they decide to nuke our position on this, it's not the end of the world. We have been taking some calls against our puts. For example, everybody who was trading this morning should have heard the call out for the success 9 calls. Okay, and that's just insurance in case the market decides to run the opposite way. For example, say we close the upper Bollinger Day one today, and then all of a sudden we get crazy bad news in the overnight. Well, that's just going to kill the upper Bollinger move. So we will be hedging towards the top of it. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. But overall, we are expecting a handle downward currently. Um, which again, if you want to short that, that's an absolutely fine short. It's about $2 of downside. Um, again, I'm not going to just because I have to get my daughter up very, very soon here. And I do want to make sure this hit. Okay, so that cup did hit. And we're looking for the handle here. We are starting, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We are starting to pull down towards the 20 mile on semiconductors, which that can be that handle to the upside opportunity. So just be very aware of that. That could be getting ready to really take us to the next level. But with SPY and QQQ, I'm gonna have to drink some coffee in a second. SPY and QQQ is telling us that we do have some downside. We should be anticipating another 20 ma test in here prior to fully pushing upward. So really look for that before getting mega bullish or anything else. Um, on semiconductors, very likely we're going to hit this 20 ma, chop in this range a little bit, build some bullish liquidity, and then head upward. The price target for the next call entry, um, targeting this upper Bollinger's is beyond ideal. Okay, so when we pull down to the 745, um, the 747 calls are probably going to be fairly reasonable at that price. So when we get there, I actually will be adding some calls into that. So let me just mark that. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for is to pull downward because we have completed the top of these cups. We should be expecting a pull down unless the market just absolutely wants to launch this thing and send us to the upper Bollinger without that. But through semiconductors, we're already seeing a little bit of this handle to the downside. Um, so we should see that reflected within QQQ and SPY, even if it doesn't pull down all the way to the 20 mile. Um, there will be a buying opportunity in there. Ideally, we are going to look for the 20 mile, um, because I don't want to be FOMOing into calls at the top here. That's never what I want to do. So wait for the pull down, then we can take some of those. Excuse me. Take some of those positions. Yes, I will be doing the 0 DTE calls on the reentry. I might even take a few 1 DTEs, but again, spy dated positions can really, really, really wreck your account. Um, I've seen it happen time and time and time and time again. So, um, we will price some stuff out there, assuming we pull down to the 20 mile. Um, and we can go over it together and see if we can find some reasonable positions to take. But yeah, currently we're just kind of in a waiting range. We're waiting for the market to pull down a little bit for bullish reasons. I know that sounds weird. I will give a class on liquidity eventually. I have one in the Discord somewhere, but it's in written form and it's probably like 2 or 3 years old. Um, Bitcoin here as well. You see this major extension. which it is telling us that it does want to close this cup all the way to the, is it the 81,300? So potentially we could be waiting for that a little bit before forming the cup to the downside throughout equities. But overall, I'm not really looking for Bitcoin to kind of dictate that. Give me a second, everybody, to drink some water or something so I don't sound like I'm dying. Yeah, exactly. And we want to, the thing about what I want to do with trading here is not just get people the largest wins in the world. Because we could absolutely do that. We could trade the SPACs. We could be pulling, $100 positions into multiple thousands. It's not what I'm looking to do here. Okay, what I'm looking to do here is keep people's risk very, very reasonable. Um, and to trade the structure as the market actually is giving it to us. Okay. Um, Last thing I want to do is have anybody gambling, burning their portfolios over trying to chase stupid big wins. It's not worth it. Okay, it's not worth it. I can tell you that firsthand. I've been burnt many times trying to do it. Um, don't make that mistake, not even a single time. It's not worth it. Okay, they will take your money if you give it to them. Continuing to wait for a little bit of this downside handle on semis. SPY, I really do want to see a little bit of downside here, but um, so far they're not giving it to us. They are giving us a little bit of a potential head and shoulders here. But even then, that's kind of sketchy because this is actually a double bottom as well. So that double bottom can be the liquidity to push us upward. Um, but we're going to be very position or very patient on entering positions. Okay. Not going to rush anything. Again, a lot of these upside moves are about selling calls. Okay. And from a dealer perspective, the way to sell calls is to push the premium up very high. The way you do that is you jump the IV up. So super, super patient. We should be getting our entries if we're going to get them. Okay. If we don't get our entries, then it's okay. There's always another trade to take. We don't have to rush anything. We don't have to FOMO anything. Right? I mean, it's great if you're winning, but it can absolutely smoke you. That's why I've been really liking, like, for example, these success positions. Um, when I originally bought my 11 puts, like 2 weeks ago, they were a, let me check, hold, 0.62 entry. Okay. Well, I mean, those puts right now are so huge. Um, and I've been taking the 10 puts, the 9 puts, and they've all been very, very cheap entries. I mean, they're almost like kind of lotto entries, um, so to speak. But it's like my 11 puts are says about 100 or 283 right now for the standard price. Um, Taking $62 into $283. I mean, that's awesome. That's super awesome. That's something that most small portfolios can do. Okay. As long as you trade, the signals and everything right. But is that better than spending, two, $300 into a 1DT SPY position, expecting it to run, and then getting gap down, and then, opening your portfolio basically with a position that's only worth like $60 now compared to the 200 to 300 you spent. Um, that's not ideal at all. So, whole goal for what we do with the stream is I will be suggesting a lot of these smaller positions. Well, let me rephrase that. I can't make suggestions. Um, what I will be taking are smaller positions, and if they fit your risk, then you're welcome to follow along. Yeah, absolutely. I think the 749 calls would be very, very well within range. If we're gonna push our upper Bollinger today, then we will be closing above the 749. Which means that those 749 calls would do very, very nicely. You might see a little bit of downside prior, but should they still hit? Very, very likely yes. Now our VVIX still pulling downward, so this is going exactly how we want it to go today. We want to continue to see this pulling downward and being defeated. Our HIG has been buying upward very, very nicely. Again, this is what we want to see. Kind of seeing everything we want to see here. But hopefully everybody's having a killer day so far. Oh, thank you for the support. I appreciate it a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna take just a couple minute break, everybody. I need to eat this banana on my desk, or else I'm gonna end up getting sick. Um, so I'm gonna be AFK for like 5 minutes. I'm gonna be here though, so we're just going to watch over the spy. I'm gonna put a note up. Actually, I don't want to do it in a text note. I want to do a rectangle. These notes work a lot better, so I can actually change the font size. Time is it? It is 11:11, so I will be back at 11, let's say 11:17. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna be mute just for a few minutes, everybody. But we kind of all know our expectations here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in chat, and I'll be more than happy to go over it. But I will be right back a few minutes. This is my ASMR channel. I know. People have always kind of said that about me, where it's like, oh, you have the voice of an angel. It's like, geez, I'm a guy. Thanks. That makes me feel good, but um, it works. Absolutely. I think we're gonna see QQQ and Spy both push that level. Um, yeah, I think it'd be insane for that not to occur today. Anyway, I'll be muted just a couple minutes, everybody. I will be right back. All right, I am back, everybody. No, I'm not looking for any dated calls or puts into next Friday. If we get the upside move that we're expecting today, then we should be seeing, um, downside consolidation from tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow we're actually going to be adding into dated short positions, and allowing this upside to cool down. Okay, so that's kind of the plan. Uh, It's sort of what happens with upper Bollinger pushes. They're very, very bullish, but it's bullishness meant to taper out the top to create a downside consolidation. Okay. On the daily time frame, that downside consolidation is going to be towards that 20 mile range. We haven't tested the 20 mile in like 30 something plus sessions now. So that level is very much due. Okay. That level is currently at the 722.36. It will be pulling up probably to about that 726 range, um, by Monday, Tuesday. So that means that from our upside, Friday, tomorrow, we should be expecting anywhere from the 751 to 752. We might overshoot that a little bit, but then that gives us the whole rest of the next week to start consolidating downward towards that 20 mile. Okay. Using futures can be absolutely great. You just have to be aware of the drawdown. Um, which it works a little differently for personal accounts, but usually a lot of people who trade futures try to go through a prop trader. Um, if you do that, you have to be super, super precise with your entries and exits. And if you're going to do futures contracts, basically only enter when we're below the lower Bollinger or above the upper Bollinger on the 5 minute time frame so that you get those very, very ideal scalps. Okay. Um, the thing with futures is they can be super, super good and super consistent, but the drawdown can hit very hard. Okay. Very, very quickly too. It works a lot like a SPAX contract in the sense of you put a lot of money into it at the beginning, and if it doesn't land your price, you're really, really gonna take some downside. So just be aware of that. But we've had many people within the group who are just purely futures traders. There's been many people who've, gone from basically nothing to starting to learn the structures and everything that we've been teaching, to entering into a small prop firm, slowly building up a portfolio, and then now they have, an actual portfolio to work on their own. So, um, now with my 0TT calls here, the ones that we entered down here, I am going to conditional order stop them out at 749.10. Okay. Well, it's actually 749.07 that I'm putting that level at. But I am going to be willing to stop out my 0DTs there, allow that premium to soak up. And if we're going to be seeing some downside consolidation prior to that, then, you know, at least I'll have gained massively on those contracts. So that's kind of the plan for that. And I'll put a little note here. Additional, meaning if the price goes above that, then it will go ahead and take my contracts for the market price, which I am very, very happy to let them do because those contracts are currently up 182%. I don't care if they take a couple dollars from me. Whatever. I've that was a great trade on our end. I'm happy about it. And also when we get to this level, okay, we are going to exit some of our SOXS positions. Okay, so let me put that in a very, very bold noting because this needs to happen. So we're going to make sure we secure some profits on those success positions. Even though we're going to leave some runners into tomorrow for that higher high, we will be taking some profits on those today. Okay, because with the expiry coming up tomorrow, I want to ensure that we get our money on those. Okay. Um, so that will be very, very clear. We push that level, you cut out a lot of those positions. Now you can do there's many different ways you can do it. You can do a limit order, you can do a conditional order. The conditional order is through Webull where it's kind of like a stop, but it's just you can set the conditions on the order. My conditions is if the price is greater than 749.07, it will take those calls. Okay, so it's basically like a stop loss, um, just heading to the upside. So stop losses like that, conditional orders, very, very good. Um, but for this, it's just a market conditional order. So it's just going to market share or market sell. I'm not looking to do a limit order at this point. Um, because we don't get a lot of time to exit positions sometimes. Um, especially with zero DTs, I don't want to be playing any games with that. I just want if I get my level, then I'm fine with the market order. I don't care if I lose 10, 20, $30. Doesn't matter to me because I gained hundreds from that trade. I'm very, very happy with it. Yes, I do expect a major correction to happen this year. Um, there's kind of a whole plethora of reasons why. But the main one is that when we have oil volatility, like we've been seeing with the conflict, usually that leads to all-time high markets. I'm not going to show that right now, just because I don't have those charts prepared. That's something I usually have to prepare. But you can correlate a lot of the oil volatility moves to all-time high markets. And the inverse is that when oil volatility basically gets stomped out, that all those all-time high markets tend to usually have a very large sell-off. Now, additionally, on top of that, we have the Bank of Japan who has their currency just dumping into the ground. Um, they have to do what's called a yen intervention, which means that they have to sell securities, they have to sell treasuries, which they've already been selling treasuries to slightly prop up the yen. But they can't do the equity sale until the oil volatility ends. That's just something that they specifically will not do. They've done that two other times in the past that I've tracked, where they've waited for that oil volatility to simmer down for about a whole month to 2 months, and then they do the massive yen intervention. So we have that to contend with. We have just the deflation from oil to contend with. Um, We do have the short-term inflation within oil to contend with as well. So there are some factors weighing against the market um, that will definitely be present later this year, just in the current sense or in the current moment. Oil volatility really does lead to breaking out markets. Now, when we get to this upper Bollinger Day 1, I actually do want to take a few, um, hold on, give me a second to price something out. Look at some options here. So I think we're going to go out on these puts that we take here. for about 22 days. Okay. Now, the puts that I'm going to be targeting right now are the TQQQ, and let me just fully verify something really quick. Okay, that's going to be super awesome. Um, so the TQQQ puts that we're going to be taking are between the 72 strike to the 76 strike. I'm personally going to be taking the 74 strike. Okay. So I will list that in chat in just a second here. And I actually want to write this on our little bulletin up here too. Or, and what day is that? That's 22 DTE, which is June 5th. Okay. Don't super load there when we do get this level. You're not going to super load those puts. I only want you taking like one or two of them because again, we're expecting a higher high tomorrow. We're expecting an even better entry tomorrow. Um, we don't want to enter too heavily too early. Okay. But that will be the position that I'm wanting to enter. So let me go ahead and type that in chat. So TQQQ TE level. So exercise super patience. We're just going to be very patient on both our exit and entry. Also, someone just bought 139,624 shares of SPY um, about 19 seconds ago. So somebody's expecting some upside. So I want to get these added to my watch list really quick because I don't want to be watching those options the entire time. Now, I do kind of want to post what I'm expecting for this exit and everything on the Twitter. So 1 second, I'm just typing a message, everybody. Okay, so I got that out. Sorry, it's so hard to post while trading. I have to get this through Webull, I have to get this through Twitter, to get this through the Discord, which eventually I need to just make a bot that's going to cover all my bases at the same time. Okay, got those all out. Yeah, thanks for joining. Hopefully you made some great money today. Get this posted in the Discord. Just one sec, I'm trying to get a bunch of messages out. Okay, that's awesome. Love hearing you all have very, very successful days. I've been doing very, very good today myself. VVIX, we do have a very small spike upward. So it did go from the 96.52 and is currently at the 97.17. And I want to look at our HIG. Our HIG is still buying, so that looks fantastic. Just see what's going on with everything. This looks like a cup and handle, so we're looking for an upward breakout on semiconductors here. That should be occurring very soon with this being at the 20 mil. So we should be seeing that upward bounce within semis, and that should translate into really pushing into the upper Bollinger on SPY and QQQ. But again, we have been expecting a little bit of a handle to the downside, which we have not gotten yet, um, which means that potentially we still have some downside to go. Our 20 mile has been pulling upward quite a bit. Okay, so if we get the downside within the 20 mile, that will be a very, very good entry. So we will just be watching that, but it looks like semiconductors is really getting ready to have that upside break, which means that um, SPY and everything very likely would push that 749 range, QQQ pushing, into those all-time highs. So we are looking for the bounce from this range. Okay, SPY, let's check the microstructure. Do have potentially a small head and shoulders forming here. Not putting too much weight into it, um, but I do want to mark it out just in case. Semiconductors are starting to head upward. So if we get the push back up towards that 533, then SPY, QQQ, everybody's going to be pushing, all-time highs. And we're being very patient on our 0DT exit and on our, um, dated put entries. Okay. And on some of those SOX S put exits too. We really want to wait for our level to hit. Um, because again, this is very, very likely what the market's trying to grab for today. I mean, the market was all the way down at the 743. So with us being less than 40 cents away from the upper Bollinger, we still have a majority of the trading day left to go. Um, there's a lot of reason for dealers to really pull this price up there, okay, and sell some calls, uh, get that premium sold. Tomorrow we move into OPEX. and go from there. Any questions or anything so far, everybody? So far today has been a super, super, super good day. We just need to fully hit our level, get our exit, get our couple put orders in, and really just prepare for tomorrow. Sorry, I'm just looking at some positions and stuff really quick. So again, for semis, we do want to see this be a push upward rather than continuing downward pretty much at all. We do not want this cup that's been built today to get invalidated. Okay. Very likely it's not going to, but it's just something we have to really be aware of and contend with here. Now I do want to look at the VVIX wherever it is. It is pulling back down again, so that is good. That's what we're looking for. So it's at the 96, 92. We could see this push down to the 95 or lower today. That'd be very welcome signal. A little bit of that head and shoulders on the 5 minute time frame. Um, which again, this can be creating that handle to the downside. Sorry, I'm not talking a whole lot right now. I'm so tired. I did not sleep very well last night, so um, just making sure we get our levels and everything. Q heading back up a little bit. Semiconductors still bouncing a little bit. SPY heading back upwards slightly. So if we can fill this 748.82, which it's looking super, super likely, um, then that's going to be a push into that 749. So today has actually been a really crazy trading day because I haven't had to deploy a lot of cash at all, to be doing massive, which is kind of what I've been trying to allude to, with the streams and everything, that we really don't have to spend a whole ton of money to have really quality positions. We just have to really focus on correct entries and exits, and we can have very cheap contracts run very, very hard. Um, those calls that I got earlier, those 747 calls, I entered those at $73 per. They're currently over $2 and 50 or $215 per right now. Once we get our push towards that 747, or excuse me, the 749.07, um, those are very likely going to be around 250 each. So very, very simple, easy trade. That even small portfolios can really take. Um, So try to focus more on taking really good entries and really good exits rather than just trying to be within the position, I guess. How did I determine the TQQQ puts for 22 days out? That is a very good question. So going to the daily time frame here, and I do just want to watch SPY on my phone just to make sure that I don't miss any of my price. On TQQQ, what is something that I would want to be targeting? Well, once we get this upper Bollinger Push, what I want to target is that 20 mile. Okay. Now, we haven't tested the 20 mile in, you know, 30 something sessions. So, is this going to take a whole 22 days to pull downward? No, it's not. Um, but we want to make sure we have plenty of time. We don't want theta wrecking our positions. We don't want, um, continue pushing because that can happen. Excuse me. You can have that continued day three Bollinger push where we don't want to be blown out of the water on our positions. So 3 weeks out, roughly, that's going to give us plenty of time to really absorb this downside, which this downside currently from where we're at is a whole $13. Okay. Um, with me targeting the 774 puts, that puts us a whole um $8 above that 20 mile range. Yes, the 20 mile will be pulling up um as we get into the upper Bollinger and have some of that consolidation, but the likelihood is it's still going to be below that $70 strike by the time we hit it. So all those puts are going to do very good. And the reason why we have further duration on them is that potentially if we do start selling off, well, what's below that 20 mile? It's that lower Bollinger. Okay. Potentially we could be going all the way from the top to the bottom there. Um, just based off of how trades work. Sometimes that happens. So a little bit of extra duration. Yes, it's gonna cost a little bit more. Is it worth it? Abso freaking lutely. Um, you definitely want that in this position. Now, I do want to look at semiconductors because, again, we don't want to be pushing downward here. We really want to be seeing an upward bounce. Okay. SPY is just barely at our level, needs to hurry up and just give it a little more oomph and then, you know, allow us to exit our zero DTEs and ensure we have a very good day. Because that's what we're going to do at this point. Once we hit our level, we're going to really just put the lock in and ensure that we're very well off. Yes, we'll still have some dated call positions for the next few, or for tomorrow's higher high, but we will be exiting a big chunk of everything fairly soon here today. So I want to take a look at our VVIX and everything. VVIX is at 97.03, so a very, very small uptick. However, we're starting to see this head and shoulders become invalidated. See this cup forming this handle. So we should be getting our upside very, very soon here. Gig still buying upward. So that form that cup we talked about. Everything in the market's telling us to look upward. Um, other than semiconductors pushing downward slightly. We really don't want to see semiconductors invalidate this cup on the day. Um, so out of anything right now, we really do want to see a bounce out of semis. Just gonna be very, 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 very patient here. And in fact, all my 0DT calls, I'm going to move my conditional order up slightly. So I have it currently set at, again, the 749.07. With them consolidating this hard, I'm gonna push it up to the 27. That may not seem like it'll add a lot to how much the calls will be worth, but that extra few cents is gonna be worth quite a bit here. Because the upper Bollinger is at the 749.62 on the 5-minute time frame, which is telling us that potentially we could be pushing all the way to the 750 today. So, um, definitely try to absorb as much of this upside as you can within reason. Okay. We just want to make very, very sure that we don't end up having a sell off here and getting a lot of these calls trapped. Okay, so make sure you're watching those exits very, very closely. Bitcoin's still looking good. Big's still looking good. Let's check semis. They have not invalidated. So if we can get some of this buying that we need, then semis are looking very great. See QQQ. QQQ is looking very much so like forming a cup and handle there. So that is looking very solid. And SPY on the 1 minute time frame, we do have this cup and handle forming. So this upside push should be happening, you know, any moment here. Especially when we're seeing semis starting to have that bounce. So just being very, very, very patient here. All of our upside signals are telling us that we should be seeing that level. So I'd love to hear you doing well on NVIDIA. Just waiting for our exits at this point. BVIX continuing to push downward. So it is at 96.81. It's telling us almost to the T that dealers are not insuring positions. Big is continuing to climb. So just waiting for our exit. Could hit any moment now. I would like to see semiconductors start pushing upward a little bit more because really we rely on their weight quite a bit. And we also want to ensure that they don't invalidate the bullish structure with that bearish uh, head and shoulders that we identified earlier. Sorry, I'm not swapping between screens and everything right this moment. really, really exhausted. So I'm just trying to make sure that we get our exit properly and set up some of those positions, and then we can kind of relax for the day. Semiconductors starting to push really hard. So that should be what triggers our upside here in SPY. Maybe if I draw another arrow, it'll decide to head up. Just waiting for this exit. I call premiums jumping up, so dealers are getting ready to take this move, it looks like. DVIX continuing to push down, so there's really no reason why we don't have these or have our level pushing right now. Yeah, there we go. Now my calls are starting to really gain some major premium. Okay, so our upside should be coming in here. Let's check the HIG. Yeah, here comes our upside. Fantastic. We're just gonna ensure that we catch that level that we're wanting. So watch those conditional orders or stop losses very, very closely. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and clear out some of these zero DTE calls just because I'm not feeling it. Okay. Um, that's not exactly a bad thing when I say I'm not feeling it. That just means that I am super, super, super exhausted right now. And I am going to be adding two of these TQQQ puts. Okay. Um, let's try to get these for 305. Okay, and we got those TQQQ puts set up. Those are for 22 days out. And we are going to use this range again to exit a little bit of our semiconductor puts or the success puts. Okay. I actually want to close out some of my HIG calls now that those have ran in the money. Okay, got those HIG calls sold. And again, we're going to sell about 60% of our success puts. So for me, I have 110 positions. So I'm going to literally sell about 70 of them. And I'm going to place my order at 0.93. It's not filling just yet, so we will peg it down to 91. Very likely should fill. And we are going to keep that set at 91. Okay, I got some of them filled already. Got a majority of them filled. Let's get some of these 8 puts sold. Should sell momentarily. What else do I want to get sold here? I'm fine with us hanging on to our 9 calls for tomorrow. A lot of my orders getting filled. Okay, and that's great. You know, very much a very, very solid day. And with some of these profits, I want to actually add a little bit more drip positions. So I'm going to add 100 shares. This pulls me almost to 20,000 shares. And on top of that, I'm also going to be adding into my GDXY just 10 shares. Nothing too big here. I always try to put a little bit of my profits into equity buys that are going to likely pay us out very well, or pay some form of dividend, something like that. Okay, so everybody should be doing super, super good today. Um, I'm selling the I sold my 11s, I sold the 10s, I sold a majority of the 9s, and I sold a majority of the 8s. Okay. Um, is it possible to get that low? Yeah, absolutely it can. Mr. Nitro, I want you to just sell your spy call today. Um, I don't want you to risk that. So just go ahead and sell it right this moment. Yeah, once we get to this upper Bollinger, um, definitely want some profit taking done by some of the team here. Um, I the worst thing I'd have the expectation of happening is we get our upper Bollinger move, and then all of a sudden we get some terrible news in the after hours, and we lose all of that profit. Um, Not what I want at all. Okay. Now, at this range, I also want to start adding some success calls for 15 days out. Okay. I want to start adding some of these 9 calls. I'm not going to add a whole bunch, but I do want to add some. Yep, you should still be holding some calls for the upper Bollinger. So again, we're not doing a full exit on everything here. Um, but just hedge. Okay, start getting some insurance built. Um, Anyway, start getting some insurance bill, start taking a little bit of profits on some of these positions because this has been a very hard-earned move. Um, trading with us over the last 2 weeks, we've been looking for this very specific move. We finally got it, so let's use it to our advantage, okay? Um, Now I do want to mark these success calls that I took. So hold on, success, 9 calls, and those are for, hold on, what day? For May 29th. And my current average on them is 0.78. Okay, so that's going to fantastic. Those should be absolutely killer wins, especially that SPAX. Because I believe you asked me about that SPAX a while ago this morning. So that should be a super killer win on your end. Very proud of you. It's not easy trading when you are as young as you are, and I don't mean that in a dismissive way at all. Just make sure you set some profits to the side. Okay, so what I've been buying is a lot of GDXY. It's a weekly dividend, okay, and it's based on precious metals, um, specifically gold. Now, when oil prices start going down, gold is going to be going upward. So GDXY, you're going to be gaining a little bit of growth as well as a weekly dividend. So I would really like I can't tell you this from a financial perspective, but I would really, really, really like you to put some of your winnings into equity positions that you're literally not going to be touching for a long time. Okay, that's the difference between a lot of traders who really make it and a lot of traders who fail. Okay, um, make sure you get some of that into equity positions. Also, really like TLTW here, even though treasuries are in the dumps right now. Um, it's based off of the 20-year bond, which has been in the gutter. Okay, and this is a monthly dividend. Um, so if you want something a little more long term that's based on the bonds, which it's always good to have a little bit of your portfolio uh, centered around treasuries, even if the treasury market has been in the dumps. Um, a few shares of TLTW will do well for you. Okay, it pays a monthly dividend. The dividend hasn't been super high right now. There's also another fund that I really like, which is HY. It's the HIG-W. Pays a super high dividend. And the price on it isn't very high. So adding a few shares there is going to be really nice. Okay, so all of our expectations should be set. Okay. Um, Everybody should have followed this big sign right here. Okay. Now, does this mean we're not bullish for tomorrow? No, we definitely are. Okay, but at this point, we want to be more so hedged for tomorrow and not it, absolutely smoked. Okay. Um, Worst thing that would happen is getting a negative tweet or something and seeing the market down 1% in the pre-market or something, when we're expecting higher highs. Sorry, just 1 second talking to someone. All right. Um, I'm gonna be ending the stream fairly soon here, because now that we've really nailed our day, we've exited a lot of our zero DT calls pretty much right at the level that we were looking for. Um, I'm super super tired, so I don't want to just sleep ramble into everybody's ears for the rest of the day. So with that said, if there is any final questions, I'll be happy to go over them. If not, then thank you all so much for watching the stream, and hopefully everybody has been able to make some, you know, fantastic profits. Today has been an absolute blessing. I have made killer money today. And I did not have to expend a lot either. So I'm very, very thankful the market gave us the day that it did. But we have been looking for this day for quite a while. So just the duality of it, I guess. ALM, I'm gonna add that to our dividend list. Now, Silver, while you're here, I've been working on a major dividend list. Um, if sometime you and I could kind of just sit down and go over them all, because I'm trying to build like a specific dividend portfolio where it will be through Webull, where you can actually just specifically buy into that dividend portfolio. So I would like to make that with you if you're interested. Um, I don't get any profits or anything on it. It would just be basically our little dividend ETF that we don't make any money on, other than through the actual dividends and earnings on it and everything. But um, yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah, you're very welcome, everyone. And again, I will be, yeah, I can cover crowd control. But I will be streaming tomorrow as well. So again, same time, we'll do it again. But let's go over crowd really quick. Okay, so daily time frame. We see quite an extension here. Okay, we see that, and actually just need to look at this on the hourly for a moment. That is one of the most bullish moves I've ever seen. This is rare. Let me tell you, this is super rare. That's something you almost take a picture of and hang in your office type rare. I know that sounds stupid, but it does look like we had a 5 mod test in here. That's what I need to really determine is between this upper Bollinger push, it looks like just, 5 or 6 days of just straight upper Bollinger pushing, but I don't think that's the case. I do think we've had a 5 mod test in here. I'm just trying to determine exactly when that was. 5 mods at the 551. Really looks like we had a 5 mod test in here during that session, but it is a little hard to define. Um, but that's back when the 5 mod was at that level, and we did have a little bit of a dig downward. Okay, so this looks fine. Okay. 5 mod tested means that um this upper Bollinger is able to push. Now, is it extended currently? Absolutely. Um, we do want to see another 5 mile test fairly soon here. Now, the low of today was actually at 555. So I want to go back again to the hourly time frame. I don't know what the 5 mile was at yesterday. 539. Oh, no, we 5 mile tested yesterday. Okay. 5 mod testing yesterday means that upper Bollinger move today is very, very clear and open, meaning we should be seeing the day one upper Bollinger, securing that level, and then getting the day two upper Bollinger, um, and seeing that higher high. Okay. That looks very, very good for that. So crowd still has a little bit of pushing, but from that push, this is kind of the same situation that we've been seeing with SPY and everything. We have not seen a 20 mile support retest in roughly over 30 sessions now. Um, so from this upper Bollinger, we are starting to target this 20 mile. Okay. The market is telling us on multiple ends that it is very, very extended. We should be seeing some downward consolidation. Not today. Again, I'm not expecting that today, but I am expecting that over the next, you know, over the next couple weeks. We should be seeing that downward consolidation. Yeah, this is a very, 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 very bullish market beyond multiple metrics. We see it through individual symbols. We see it through massive ETFs. We see it on the daily time frame. We see it on the weekly time frame. We see it on the monthly time frame. Um, Probably one of the largest bull pushes that have really, really, really been accounted for. Um, And we haven't been shorting it. Okay, we've been taking it very bullish. We've been riding this upside. Um, and we're not going to fight the upside either. Okay, that's why we're entering our positions very, very slowly with these dated puts and everything. Again, we're not going to fight against the market. If the market wants to push another one, two, 3 sessions, we need to let that happen while not blowing up our accounts. So yes, you should still be holding a few of the Success puts for tomorrow. Because we're really looking for semiconductors to push all new highs. Okay, this is building a cup and handle. This is telling you very, very likely we're going to be pushing into this 535, 536, even 537 range very soon here. Well, what's that going to do to Success? Okay, that's going to pull it into, well below the $8 range. Okay, so while we did already start taking some profits on some of our Success puts, leave some runners for tomorrow because tomorrow and the overall market is telling us that we should be seeing that gap up tomorrow. Okay, but we are securing at least I'm saying at least 60% of your calls you should secure today. Um, in terms of taking some profits. Again, we're in a very, very volatile market. And while it looks like just pure buying, all it takes is a single tweet, a single piece of bad news to absolutely dump us very, very hard. Um, if you all remember when we had the ceasefire news, I think we had like a $20, $30 upside within 1 to 2 sessions. That volatility is not out of the system yet. Okay. Volatility does not just work as a selling measure. Volatility works as when you have negative volatility, that works as a buying measure as well. But the opposite end to negative volatility is positive volatility. Okay. Positive volatility can pull this down very, very quickly. Um, we don't want to risk burning our money to that, okay? Because I've done that. I've seen it happen. Um, there was a day where it was like a day like today where I had two 1 DT SPAX calls um that went from like $200 to like $2,000 per call. Um, and then we were going to get the gap up, and literally 10 minutes until the market opened, we had a Trump tweet that tore the market down, and those SPACs puts pretty much, or those SPACs calls pretty much instantly went to zero. Okay. Um, before I even had a chance to navigate it. So we're not about that. Give me 1 second, everybody. Yes, still hold on to some of those puts. Yeah. But anyway, everybody, if there's no final questions, then we will go ahead and end the stream here. Again, we will be streaming tomorrow, same time, looking to, as always, fill it like we do each and every day, just about. Some days we have days that are quote unquote bad, but we usually don't lose money on those days. Usually those days are just more so neutral. Um, so let's keep that going. Okay. But other than that, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. It's a very nice Thursday. At least this morning for me still it's only 9:20 a.m. For many of you it might be 12 p.m. or if you're on the other side of the world it might be nighttime or something, but I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of the trading day, and hopefully we get our higher high tomorrow and we will go from there. So, thank you everybody for watching. Take care and I will talk to you tomorrow.